Welcome to Technology for Your Pedagogy. I am Melony Shemberger, your host to discuss all things with educational and instructional technology. Every learning event has many tasks. For instance, when your students are learning to write a persuasive speech, so particularly if you teach public speaking, you break down the content into bite-sized pieces for your students. These include crafting an argument, finding credible research, proposing solutions, and working on other important elements of a persuasive speech. Do you have a learning event like this? If so, have your students encountered difficulties in mastering any of the tasks involved? If the answer is still yes, you might want to try creating an interactive video. In this episode, I will guide you on the topic of interactive videos, which are a micro-learning technique that can be used for scenarios that are more complex and possibly have several decisions and outcomes. Before exploring instructional concepts that you could pursue in an interactive video, let's discuss what an interactive video is. Actually, an interactive video can be presented a couple different ways. These kinds of videos could be enriched videos in which they might offer additional resources within the videos, such as links to other resources that a student could click on. They also allow instructors to include questions to judge students' understanding, and a student would have to respond to a prompt that you have embedded in the video. This means that you can monitor your learner's progression through the video and viewing habits. Video-based learning empowers critical thinking when students watch interactive videos. They are versatile and accessible on various platforms and devices. Studies in medicine, foreign languages, computer applications, and other academic disciplines have documented the positive effects of interactive videos, as well as guidelines and ideas to consider. If you're interested in looking up some of the research, some of the authors that I have looked into some of their work, some of these authors include Jen Dubey, and let me spell that for you. It's Jendoubi. Work in 2017. Another author that you might want to check out on this topic is Bakla, Bakla, also in 2017. And then we have Violante and Vezzetti. Violante is Violante, co-author Vezzetti, Vezzetti, and that was in 2015. So some recent works, but one of my favorite articles that I would recommend is Baker's 2016 work titled Active Learning with Interactive Videos, Creating Student-Guided Learning Materials. This was published in the Journal of Library and Information Services in Distance Learning. However, other fields, such as journalism and other areas in communication studies where scholarly insights about interactive videos are not as robust, could look to interactive videos as opportunities for improved student learning. As you might have guessed, interactive videos are ideal in online learning environments, but they also can supplement in-person coursework to enhance the learning process, engaging and activating the learners as they watch the video. Interactive videos encourage learning experiences, and these can include demonstrations, allowing them to practice what they just learned, and other formative assessments. Essentially, interactive videos, like I mentioned earlier, they're a form of microlearning, a way to support learners in meeting learning objectives in a place that they normally use and usually involves technology. Think of microlearning as modules in a learning management system. They are bite-sized, focusing on a specific topic or subtopic or content area, and interactive video also achieves the same purpose. Let's revisit my example that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. Suppose your students submitted their persuasive speeches before they delivered them because you want to see how the content in the speech is organized and how it developed. You review their speeches, but you notice that for the most part, the arguments are not developed well, or they might lack a clear position. And this can be disappointing, right? Since you spent a good deal of class time or online lessons about this crucial aspect of a persuasive speech. Creating an interactive video might be an added instructional component so that your students do something. The video could feature an example of an argument that is not effective, as well as an example of a well-written argument and position. The steps involved in writing a proper persuasive argument also could be provided in a way that reduces cognitive load. Throughout these instructional pieces in the video, you then could insert questions, comment boxes, or other assessment techniques for students to complete. Plus, your students can revisit material by viewing the video multiple times. In an interactive video, you are making content, well, interactive. In other words, you're making your students do something, and that's really important. You want to engage them in practical activities such as simulations, maybe some drag and drop assessments and quizzes, rather than just having them listening to a lecture, listening to a presentation, or just listening to a video and watching a video. Let's look next at the technology that you could use in making an interactive video. Creating an effective interactive video, yes, it takes time. So that's why it's critical to choose a lesson in which your students need additional guidance, because you really cannot do an interactive video for every lesson. Structuring interactive videos that promote learning experiences through demonstrations, practice, and assessment enables students to master the concepts of one topic. This often occurs through demonstrations, perhaps by you, the instructor, maybe even a guest, and it measures concept mastery through hands-on practice before they move to the next topic. So, what technology is available or appropriate to create an interactive video? You can look at some apps, such as Edpuzzle or Pear Deck. Those can make videos interactive, allowing you to insert questions or comment boxes for students. Nearpod also is a possibility, as well as Powtoon, which incorporates animation. These are free web-based tools, and that's really important for instructors. And then software such as Camtasia, which is what I use often. Adobe Captivate is another one that I use, but these are more sophisticated, and they do require a license or some kind of subscription fee. And they also require a bit of training. In fact, like I said, I use Adobe Captivate, and I use that to create interactive content, particularly though for faculty development topics in which instructors can receive brief instruction that requires them to engage with the material in some way. The drag and drop feature and comment boxes are the approaches that I normally use in interactive videos. When producing an interactive video, you might want to consider the YouTube method. According to a 2017 article titled 4 Ways to Create Interactive Videos by Negrea, that's Negrea, in the journal University Business, most YouTube videos are short, and that is what incoming undergraduate students, especially, are familiar with. Interactive videos should provide instant feedback, again offer quizzes maybe, allow learners to see the teacher's face, because that is important in any instructional communication context to build instructor presence, and also to change the activities frequently throughout the video. Perhaps you can have a poll one moment and then maybe a quiz later on in the video, and then maybe some other activities. You are a content creator when making interactive videos. I emphasize this point because I know that sounds like work. But again, choose a lesson that is proving difficult for your students or has many moving parts. Here are some best practice tips, 5 of them in fact. They're based on principles of multimedia learning for you to consider when making an interactive video. First, implement storytelling or the use of a narrative because it is going to engage learners, provide context, or even explain complex relationships, theories, and principles. As an example, in an interactive video that I produced for instructors about creating rubrics, I set the topic in the context of a chocolate chip cookie contest because let's face it, who doesn't like a good chocolate chip cookie? And in that video, I showed a rubric as to how it was necessary to guide my choice as objectively as possible for the winning cookie without trying to judge it subjectively. Without a rubric, judges potentially would determine the best cookie according to different characteristics. Some people might want their chocolate chip cookie really chewy, and then others might want a firm chocolate chip cookie. So therefore, placing the problem in a narrative that is appealing, it helps the learner to navigate the material. And like I said, who doesn't like cookies, right? The importance of storytelling leads to my second point. Storyboard your video. This means listing or outlining the video scenes or slides with a one-sentence description of what will take place and why that aspect is relevant for the purpose of the video. And then you also will plan where the interactive points will be. It's very similar to scripting, but it's not going to be verbatim. Third, use visuals to increase understanding for your students, such as annotations in the form of arrows or highlights that you can place on the video to call viewers' attention to keywords. And again, a lot of the apps will allow for those types of graphics. Maybe some hotspots to allow for interaction with visual content. Even a visual representation of progress or steps involved with the process. Fourth, apply audio such as music, where appropriate, to decrease cognitive load. Audio also is useful to signal attention from one topic to the next. So perhaps, like in this case of this podcast, you might hear music at times because it helps to give the ear a moment to rest before moving on to the next set of concepts. And then fifth, build opportunities for critical thinking. These can include incorporating activities and assessments related to the video content. Now, we've mentioned some such as quizzes and drag and drop. Another one is a branching scenario where the learner chooses a path to follow. So if they click on this button, this is where it takes them. If they were to come back to the scene and click another button, it will direct them on another path. You also can create experiences for learners to see, to practice, to complete a process. You can also have posing opportunities for real-world examples and questions, providing feedback to show consequences of choices. So those were the best practices. On the flip side, when creating an interactive video, it is recommended that you avoid these things. First, capturing an interactive video in a disorganized, messy, or cluttered environment. That's why storyboarding is really important. And plus, two, you want to make sure that you have the sound right, especially if you're using vocal. And in addition, that you pretty much have everything organized the way you know you want this video to go. Placing lengthy factual details immediately before an interaction, you want to avoid that, as well as designing interactions that are difficult to use or navigate, because this is going to increase the cognitive load for the student. Throughout this episode, you focused on interactive videos, which allow students to engage in their lesson instead of being a passive viewer. They allow for summative and formative assessments that help reinforce the lesson, as well as giving you, the instructor, feedback on performance and understanding. Aside from evaluation, the videos could contain other interactive tools to help create experiences that enhance problem-solving skills. Interactive videos can vary student learning tasks and learning activities to diversify the student's learning experience. We also explored how interactive videos make it possible to break down events into single steps, allowing for analytical and critical thinking skills to develop. Interactive videos offer rich moments for enhanced learning. They are time-intensive to create, yes, and that's a major reason why these should not be used to augment every lesson. Nor should it replace lecture videos because those do remain relevant and they have merit in instruction. Rather, create an interactive video when you want students to learn one bite at a time. I hope you are encouraged to amplify your instruction further with interactive videos. They are worth the investment of time and energy for your students. But you also gain skills in video creation and you build your technology toolkit. If you want to explore interactive videos further, the research that I offer during this episode is helpful. If you are a university educator, I encourage you to visit your Teaching and Learning Center or Faculty Development Center for additional guidance that staff there could offer on this subject. And if you are a high school teacher, your instructional coaches are resources to consult. Thank you for listening to this episode of Technology for Your Pedagogy. I am Melony Shemberger.